Admiral Veltar stared at the blue holographic display floating above his desk. The battle report from Sector 7 Alpha made no sense. He had read it 3 times already, but the numbers still seemed wrong. The Void Reapers had attacked with 4 ships. These were not small vessels. One was larger than most space stations. Their hulls could repair themselves even while taking heavy fire. They had destroyed entire star systems before, yet somehow they were all gone now. Every single one. The human fleet had only 12 ships in that sector. 12 against 47 should have been a massacre. The humans should have retreated or called for backup. Instead, they won without losing a single vessel. Veltar touched his communicator. Send me all the combat recordings from that battle. His aide, a young officer with purple skin and 4 arms, nodded quickly. Right away, Admiral. Should I also request the human communication logs? Yes, everything. Veltar had been fighting space battles for 30 years. He had seen impossible victories before, but they always had explanations. Better weapons, lucky shots, enemy mistakes. This battle had none of those things. The recordings arrived within minutes. Veltar activated the main viewer and watched the battle unfold. At first, everything looked normal. The human ships moved in standard formation. Their leader, Captain Dongmin, gave clear orders over the radio. His voice was calm and professional. Echo Squadron, maintain distance. Bravo. Squadron, target their left flank. Remember, these ships can heal themselves, so we need concentrated fire. The humans fought well, but not amazingly. They followed good tactics and kept their formation tight. For the first part of the battle, Veltar could see exactly what was happening and why. Then something changed at exactly 12 minutes and 37 seconds before the end of the battle. Captain Dongman stopped talking. Not just him. Every human voice on every ship went silent at the same moment. Veltar frowned. Communication failures happen sometimes, but across 12 different ships at once. That seemed impossible, but the humans did not act like they had lost communication. They moved even better than before. Their ships began dancing around the massive Void Reaper vessels like tiny fish around sleeping whales. They hit weak points that should not have been visible on their sensors. The Void Reapers tried to adapt. They always did. Their ships learned from each attack and changed their defenses. Somehow, the humans stayed one step ahead. When the enemy strengthened their left side, the humans were already hitting the right. When the Reapers powered up their rear weapons, human ships appeared above and below them. It was like the humans could see the future. Veltar watched one human ship, barely the size of a transport vessel, fly straight at a Void Reaper battleship. Any sane pilot would have been terrified. The battleship's weapons could vaporize the smallest ship in seconds. But the human vessel moved through the weapon fire like it was not even there. Every shot missed by centimeters. The small ship fired. Once, a single shot at exactly the right spot. The massive battleship exploded. This happened again and again. 12 human ships destroyed 47 enemy vessels in less than 13 minutes. The recordings showed impossible accuracy and perfect timing. But what disturbed Veltar most was the silence. From the moment they stopped talking until the last enemy ship exploded, not one human said a single word. The Admiral called his intelligence officer. Creven, I need you to check something for me. The tall, thin alien appeared on the screen. His species had large eyes that could see in many different colors. What do you need, Admiral? Look through our records. Find every major battle where humans were involved in the last 3 years. I want to know if this silence thing has happened before. Silencing. Veltar sent him the battle recording. Watch this. Pay attention to their communication patterns. 20 minutes later, Craven called back. His large eyes were even wider than usual. Admiral, you need to see this. I found 6 other battles where the same thing happened. The humans fought normally, then went completely quiet, then won against impossible odds. 6 others. The Battle of Kepler Station, the rescue at Titan's Gate, the defense of New Sol. Should I continue? Veltar felt cold. 7 battles. 7 times the humans had done something that should have been impossible. Send me all the data I need to speak with the Council. The next day, Veltar stood before the Galactic Defense Council on Nexus Prime. The enormous chamber held representatives from 43 different species. Some looked like animals from old Earth stories. Others were so strange that humans needed special equipment just to communicate with them. Counselor Dexani, a being that looked like a giant floating jellyfish, spoke first. Admiral Veltar, your report is most unusual. He claimed that human forces have developed some kind of secret weapon. Not a weapon, Counselor. Something else. I believe they have found a new way to fight. Something we do not understand. A reptilian counselor from the hegemony systems hissed softly. Humans are effective soldiers, but they are still just humans. They have no special abilities. Then how do you explain this? Veltar activated the holographic display and showed the battle recordings. The council chamber fell silent as they watched 12 human ships destroy an entire Void Reaper fleet. When the recording ended, many of the counselors looked troubled. Vexani's voice carried a note of concern. This is indeed strange, but one battle proves nothing. Perhaps they were lucky. It was not one battle. Veltar displayed the data from all 7 engagements. 7 times, Counselor. 7 times they have gone silent and achieved victory against overwhelming odds. This is not luck. A blue-skinned counselor with 6 arms leaned forward. What are you suggesting, Admiral? I suggest we need to understand what happens when humans go quiet in battle, 'cause whatever it is, it makes them far more dangerous than we ever realized. Counselor Dexani's form pulsed with different colors, a sign of deep thought. Very well. We will investigate this matter, but quietly. The humans have developed some new combat technique. We need to understand it without alarming our other allies. Veltar nodded. What are your orders? Bring Captain Dongman here. We will question him directly. And Admiral. Vexani paused. If the humans have truly found a way to fight that we cannot comprehend, we need to decide whether they are our greatest allies or our most dangerous potential enemies. As the council session ended, Veltar looked out at the stars through the great windows of Nexus Prime. Somewhere out there, human ships were patrolling the galaxy's borders. Until now, he had thought of them as reliable partners in the fight against chaos and destruction. Now he wondered what else they might be capable of. Intelligence analyst Craven had not slept in 2 days. His office was covered with holographic displays showing battle data from across the galaxy. Empty food containers were stacked on his desk. His large eyes were red from staring at screens for too long. But he had found something incredible. Craven had analyzed every human combat engagement for the past 5 years. Not just the major battles, but every small fight, every patrol action, every time human ships fired their weapons. The pattern was clearer than he had expected. In normal fights against pirates or small enemy groups, humans acted exactly like other species. They talked constantly. They gave orders. They reported their status. They asked for help when needed. Nothing unusual at all. But when the odds became truly terrible, something changed. Craven had identified 17 separate battles where human forces faced certain death. In every single case, the same thing happened. The humans would fight normally at first. Then, at a specific moment, they would stop talking completely. After that moment, their effectiveness increased by an average of 847%. 847%. That number made no sense. Craven had seen many species fight desperate battles. Fear usually made soldiers worse, not better. Panic caused mistakes. Desperation led to poor decisions. But humans seemed to become nearly unstoppable when they stopped communicating. He called Admiral Veltar. "Okay, you need to see this data immediately. Is it that important?" Analyst. "Okay, Admiral. I believe we have discovered something that could change how we understand combat itself." 2 hours later, Craven stood in the Council's intelligence briefing room. Admiral Veltar was there, along with 3 other high-ranking military officers from different species. The room's walls displayed dozens of battle recordings. "Show us what you found," Admiral Veltar said. Craven activated the first display. "This is the Battle of Crimson Nebula, 18 months ago. 3 human ships were escorting a medical transport when they were attacked by 15 pirate vessels. The recording showed the human ships in a desperate situation. They were outnumbered 5 to 1. The pirates had better weapons and stronger shields. So watch their communication patterns," Craven said. For the first 10 minutes, the human voices were steady but tense. The ship captains coordinated their movements and called out enemy positions. Then Commander Ji Woo, leading the escort group, said something strange. "All ships, prepare for silence protocol." Every human voice stopped. The 3 human ships suddenly moved like they were connected by invisible strings. They flew in perfect formation without any radio contact. One ship would begin a turn, and the others would start the same turn at exactly the same moment. The pirates never had a chance. The humans attacked with surgical precision. They hit weak points that should have been impossible to see. They anticipated enemy movements before those movements began. In 4 minutes, all 15 pirate ships were destroyed. "Silence protocol," muttered one of the military officers. "They have a name for it." Craven showed the next recording. "The defense of mining station Alpha 7, 12 human ships against 32 enemy vessels." Again, the same pattern. Normal fighting, then sudden silence, then impossible victory. The Battle of Twin Suns, the raid on Shadow Base, the defense of the outer colonies. Craven showed recording after recording. Every battle told the same story. Admiral Veltar leaned forward. "Have any other species ever displayed similar behavior?" "No, sir. I checked our database of over 2 million combat engagements involving 43 different species. Only humans show this pattern." A reptilian officer hissed softly. "Perhaps they have developed new technology. It's kind of silent communication system." Craven shook his head. "I thought the same thing. But our sensors show no unusual energy signatures during their silent periods. No quantum transmissions, no neural links, no technological communication of any kind." Then, how did they coordinate so perfectly?" "I do not know, sir, but I have more data to show you." The next recordings were even more disturbing. Craven had found battles where human ships were separated by millions of kilometers. It's too far apart for any known form of instant communication. Yet, when they entered their silent mode, they still moved in perfect coordination. "This is impossible," the reptilian officer said. "No species can coordinate across such distances without technology." "The humans can," Craven replied simply. "Admiral." Veltar studied the data displays. "What triggers this behavior? When do they decide to go silent?" "That is the most interesting part." Craven highlighted specific moments in each battle. "They enter silent mode when their chance of survival drops below approximately 12%. It only happens when they face truly hopeless situations, so fear triggers it." "No, sir. Fear makes most species fight worse. It's something else entirely." The briefing room fell quiet as everyone absorbed this information. Finally, Admiral Veltar spoke. "We need to question the humans directly. Bring Captain Dongman to Nexus Prime immediately." 3 days later, Captain Dongman stood in the council's main chamber. He was a tall man with calm eyes and short black hair. His uniform was simple, but perfectly maintained. He showed no signs of nervousness, despite being surrounded by the galaxy's most powerful leaders. Counselor Dexani spoke first. Captain, we have been studying your recent battle reports. We noticed some unusual patterns in your combat methods. What kind of patterns, Counselor? Your ships sometimes stop communicating during battles. Can you explain this? Captain Dongmin was quiet for a moment. Sometimes words become unnecessary. That is not an explanation, the reptilian counselor said. How do you coordinate without communication? We listen to something deeper than words. Admiral Veltar stepped forward. Captain, we have recordings of your ships moving in perfect formation across impossible distances. No known technology can explain this. What are you not telling us? Captain Dongmin looked around the chamber at all the alien faces watching him. Counselors, my species has been fighting for survival since we first stood upright on our home world. We learned long ago that sometimes the best way to win is to stop thinking and start feeling. Counselor Dexani's colors shifted to show confusion. Emotion makes soldiers less effective, not more. For most species, perhaps. Humans are different. When we face certain death, when there is no logical way to survive, we tap into something that goes beyond individual thought. A blue-skinned counselor leaned forward. Are you claiming that humans have some kind of collective consciousness? Captain Dongmin smiled slightly. I am saying that when humans truly trust each other, when we are willing to die for the same, because we can share more than words. The chamber erupted in confused voices. Multiple counselors spoke at once in dozens of different languages. The translation systems could barely keep up. Counselor Dexani called for silence. Captain, are you telling us that humans can read each other's minds? Not exactly, but we can feel what needs to be done. We can sense where our allies will move before they move. We become one weapon instead of many separate ones. Admiral Veltar stared at the human captain. And this only happens during desperate situations. Yes, it requires complete trust and the willingness to surrender individual survival for group victory. It cannot be forced or faked. The council members looked at each other with worried expressions. The humans possessed some form of shared consciousness during combat. What did that mean for the rest of the galaxy? Captain Dongmin seemed to sense their concern. Counselors, we are your allies. This ability exists only to protect what we care about, or we would never use it against friends. But as the captain left the chamber, many counselors wondered if they truly understood what humanity was capable of, and whether that capability made humans the galaxy's greatest protectors, or its most dangerous unknown. Counselor Dexani floated in the center of the council's private meeting room. Her jellyfish-like body pulsed with nervous colors. Round her, representatives from 7 different species argued in hushed voices. We need to understand what we are dealing with, she said, bringing the discussion to order. Captain Dongmin's explanation raises more questions than it answers. Admiral Veltar nodded. Shared consciousness during combat sounds like something from science fiction, not reality. The reptilian counselor Sektar hissed softly. If humans can truly coordinate without technology, they possess an advantage unlike anything we have seen. We must know if this is real. And if it is real, added Counselor Zephyra, her blue skin darker than usual with worry, we must know its limits. Thixani's colors shifted to show decision. Then we will test them under controlled conditions where we can observe everything. 3 weeks later, Captain Dongmin received orders to report to the Kepler Proving Grounds. SWAS, a massive space facility used for military training and weapons testing. It contained advanced simulation systems that could create realistic battle scenarios. Captain Dongmin arrived with 2 other human ships. The UES Taiguk was his flagship, a medium-sized vessel with good weapons and strong shields. Commander. Jiwoo commanded the U.S. Bizan, a smaller but faster ship designed for quick strikes. Lieutenant Sora led the EU's Jeju, the newest ship in their small fleet. The three human vessels seemed tiny in the vast space of the proving grounds. Around them, observer ships from different council species maintained careful distances. Each observer ship carried the most advanced sensors available. They would monitor every aspect of the coming battle. Dr. Yaxman, scientists from the hegemony systems, supervised the test from the main observation deck. Her species had developed some of the galaxy's best neural scanning equipment. If the humans truly shared thoughts during combat, her sensors would detect it. Begin the simulation, she ordered. The space around the human ships suddenly filled with enemy vessels. Not real ships, but energy projections that looked and acted exactly like the real thing. 30 simulated enemy ships appeared in attack formation. The scenario was designed to be difficult, but winnable. The human ships would need to use good tactics and work together perfectly. But with skill and luck, they could succeed. Captain Dongman's voice came over the radio. All ships, form up. Standard Delta formation. Watch for their heavy cruisers on the flanks. For the first 20 minutes, the battle proceeded normally. The humans fought well, but not amazingly. They followed good tactics and communicated constantly. Lieutenant Sora's voice was especially active. Enemy fighters coming in from Sector 7 have missile lock on their lead cruiser. Jeju requesting support on the right wing. Commander Jiwoo responded quickly. Bizan moving to assist. Captain, should we concentrate fire on their command ship? Negative. Take out their escort vessels first. We need to isolate their big guns. Dr. Yaxman watched the neural activity readings from her monitoring station. The human brain patterns looked completely normal. Each crew member showed individual thought patterns. There was no sign of shared consciousness or collective thinking, but the simulated enemy was learning and adapting. This was one of the most advanced features of the proving grounds. The enemy ships began using new tactics. They concentrated their fire more effectively. They anticipated human movements. The battle became much harder. Captain Dongman's ship took heavy damage. The Taigwick's shields dropped 30%. Commander Jiwoo reported engine problems on the Bizan lieutenant. Sora's ship was surrounded by enemy fighters. This is not going well, Captain Dongman said over the radio. We need to change our approach. What are your orders, Captain? Lieutenant Sora asked. Her voice showed stress, but not panic. Captain Dongman was quiet for several seconds. Then, he said something that made Dr. Yaxman lean forward in her chair. All ships, prepare for silence protocol. Understood, Captain. Both other commanders replied. Lieutenant Sora spoke her last words of the battle. See you on the other side. Then every human voice stopped. Dr. Yaxman stared at her instruments in amazement. The neural activity readings changed completely. Instead of 3 separate patterns from 3 different ships, the sensors showed something impossible. The brain waves of every human crew member began matching each other. Not just similar, identical. Dozens of humans on 3 different ships, separated by thousands of kilometers, showed the exact same neural patterns. It was as if they had become one mind spread across multiple bodies. The 3 human ships began moving differently. They flowed through space like a school of fish, turning and diving as one unit. No communication passed between them, yet their coordination was perfect. The simulated enemy ships tried to adapt, but they could not predict what the humans would do next. The human vessels seemed to know where enemy fire would come from before the weapons were fired. They moved through attack patterns like they could see the future. Captain Dongman's ship dove straight at the enemy command vessel. Any normal pilot would have been destroyed by the concentrated fire from 6 different ships. But the Taigok moved through the weapon beams like they were not there. Every shot missed by the smallest possible margin. At the same time, Commander Jiwoo's ship appeared behind the enemy formation. Lieutenant Sora's ship came from above. All three humans struck at exactly the same moment, hitting weak points that should have been impossible to see. The enemy command ship exploded without their leader. The remaining enemy ships became confused. The humans moved through them like a blade through water. They hit critical systems with surgical precision. They knew exactly where to strike for maximum damage. The battle that was supposed to last 2 hours ended in 8 more minutes. When the simulation ended, the 3 human ships drifted quietly in space. For several seconds, nothing moved. Then Captain Dongman's voice returned to the radio. Exercise complete. All ships report status. Bizon, ready for next mission. Commander Jiwoo replied. Jeju, operational and ready, Lieutenant Sora added. They sounded completely normal, as if nothing unusual had happened. Dr. Yaxman stared at her readings. During the silence period, the humans had achieved impossible coordination, but now their neural patterns were separate again. Individual minds in individual bodies. She opened a communication channel to the human fleet. Captain Dongman, please, prepare for detailed debriefing. We have many questions. Of course, Doctor. Though I am not sure how helpful our answers will be. Why is that? Captain Dongman paused. Because we do not fully understand it ourselves. We just know that sometimes, when everything seems lost, we stop being separate people and become something more. Dr. Yaxman looked at the data from her sensors. The evidence was clear. During their silent period, the humans had shared consciousness across impossible distances. They had moved as one entity while remaining in separate bodies. It should have been impossible. But the proof was right there in her instruments, as the human ships prepared to leave the proving grounds. Dr. Yaxman realized that the galaxy had just witnessed something that would change everything. Humans were not just another species with good military tactics. They were something entirely new. Dr. Heijin walked through the corridors of Nexus Prime with careful steps. She had never been to the Council's home station before. The hallways were enormous, built to accommodate species of many different sizes. Aliens were as small as her hand, while others were larger than ground vehicles. She was nervous. The Council had summoned her to explain what they had witnessed during the test at Kepler Proving Grounds. As the human fleet's synopsicologist, she was supposed to understand how different species thought and behaved. But even she did not fully understand what happened when humans went silent in battle. The council chamber was intimidating. 43 different species sat in a vast circular room. Some breathed air like humans. Others lived in water tanks or required special atmospheric suits. A few existed as pure energy and appeared only as glowing lights. Counselor Thexani floated in the center, her jellyfish body pulsing with formal colors. Dr. Heijin, thank you for coming. We need answers about what our sensors recorded during the recent exercise. Dr. Heijin bowed respectfully. I will help however I can, Counselor. Admiral Veltar activated a holographic display. Doctor, these readings show that during the silent period, all human crew members displayed identical neural patterns. This should be impossible across multiple ships. Dr. Heijin studied the data. The brainwave patterns were indeed identical. Not similar, but exactly the same. She had seen this before in her research, but never so clearly documented. What you witness, she said carefully, is something we call the quiet mind. The chamber fell silent. Every alien representative leaned forward to hear her explanation. Humans evolved on a dangerous world. Dr. Heijin continued. Our ancestors faced threats that could destroy entire tribes. Large predators, natural disasters, enemy groups with superior numbers. Normal thinking was not enough to survive these situations. Counselor Sektar hissed softly. All species face survival challenges. This does not explain shared consciousness. You are correct, counselor, but humans develop something unique. When facing certain death, when individual survival becomes impossible, our brains can link together temporarily. Dr. Yaxman, the scientist who had monitored the test, spoke from her observer station. Doctor, our scans showed perfect neural synchronization across distances that should prevent any biological connection. How is this possible? Dr. Haijing took a deep breath. We do not fully understand the mechanism, but we know it requires 3 conditions. First, genuine mortal danger where normal tactics will not work. Second, complete trust among the group members. Third, the conscious choice to put group survival above individual survival. You're describing a form of telepathy, said Counselor Zephyra, her blue skin pale with concern. Not telepathy, as you might imagine it. We do not read thoughts or send messages. Instead, we share instincts, battlefield awareness, and combat experience at a level deeper than conscious thought. Admiral Veltar frowned. Can this ability be controlled? Can humans activate it at will? No, Admiral. This cannot be forced or faked. The brain scans from your test prove this. For the first 20 minutes, our people showed normal individual neural patterns. Its quiet mind only emerged when the situation became truly desperate. The reptilian counselor leaned forward. How long has your species possessed this ability? We believe it developed during our earliest history. Small groups of humans survived impossible situations by becoming temporarily unified. Those who could achieve this connection lived to pass on their genes. Those who could not did not survive. Counselor Thexani's colors shifted to show deep thought. All humans capable of this? Most humans, yes. But it requires training and trust. Military units practice together for years to build the bonds necessary. Even then, it only works when the situation is truly hopeless. Dr. Yaxman activated another display. Doctor, we have identified 17 major battles where this phenomenon occurred. In each case, human effectiveness increased by more than 800%. These numbers are beyond anything we have seen from any other species. Dr. Haijin nodded. The quiet mind allows humans to function as a single organism instead of separate individuals. We share reflexes, experience, and intuition instantly. A pilot with 30 years of experience can share that knowledge with a new recruit in seconds. The chamber erupted in worried voices. Multiple species spoke at once, their translation devices struggling to keep up. The implications were staggering. Silence, Stexany commanded. Her body flashed bright colors to show authority. Dr. Hidgen, are you telling us that humans can evolve their consciousness during combat? In a way, yes. We temporarily become something greater than the sum of our parts. A small alien with multiple eyes spoke in a high-pitched voice. This gives humans an enormous advantage over all other species. How do we know they will not use this against us? Dr. Haijin felt the tension in the room. Fear was replacing curiosity on many alien faces. Counselors, the quiet mind only functions when fighting for something we care about. It requires genuine commitment to protect others. Humans cannot use this ability for conquest or aggression. How can you be certain? Admiral Veltar asked. Because the neural connection requires trust and shared purpose. Soldiers who fight only for personal gain cannot achieve the necessary bond. Quiet mind emerges only when humans are willing to die for something greater than themselves. Captain Dungman, who had been silent until now, stepped forward. If I may speak, counselors, Dexani's colors showed permission. Species learned something important during our violent history. Sometimes the best way to preserve the individual is to temporarily surrender individual identity. We discovered that by becoming one mind, we could protect what matters most to us and what matters most to humans. Counselor Sektar asked. Our families, our friends, our allies, the innocent people who cannot protect themselves. Captain Dongman looked around the chamber. We consider all of you to be under our protection now. An uncomfortable silence filled the chamber. The alien representatives exchanged glances, unsure whether to feel reassured or threatened. Counselor Thexani spoke carefully. Captain, your species has developed an ability that can make you the most powerful military force in the galaxy. This concerns us. I understand your concern, Counselor, but consider this. In every battle where we used the quiet mind, we fought to protect others. We have never used this ability for conquest or personal gain. Keen added. The biological evidence supports this. Our neural scans show that the quiet mind only activates when humans genuinely believe they are protecting something important. It cannot be used for selfish purposes. Admiral Veltar studied the data displays. Dr. Hygiene, in your professional opinion, should we be concerned about this ability? Admiral, humans have been your allies for years. We have fought beside you against common enemies, have shared our technology and knowledge freely. Quiet mind is just another tool we use to protect what we care about. But it is a tool that no other species possesses, Counselor Sephra pointed out. Every species has unique abilities, Captain Dongman replied. Some have superior technology, others have natural advantages like enhanced senses or physical strength. Humans have the ability to temporarily share consciousness during desperate situations. Thexani's colors showed decision. This information must be classified at the highest security levels. We need time to understand the full implications. As the session ended, Dr. Hygiene realized that the galaxy had changed. The Council now knew that humans possessed something beyond normal military capability. That this knowledge would strengthen or strain their alliance remained to be seen. But one thing was certain. The quiet mind was no longer humanity's secret. 6 months had passed since the Council learned about the human quiet mind. The galaxy had remained peaceful during this time, but everyone knew that would not last forever. The Void Reapers had been quiet too, but intelligence reports suggested they were gathering for a massive attack. Admiral Veltar stood in the Council's military command center, watching technicians install new equipment. The room now contained specialized monitoring systems designed to detect when human forces entered their silent mode. It had taken months to develop the technology. Is the new protocol ready? Asked Counselor Thexoni, floating beside him. Yes, Counselor. We call it Special Combat Protocol Omega-7. When our sensors detect human neurosynchronization during battle, all Allied forces will receive an automatic alert. The protocol was simple but comprehensive. The moment humans went silent, every Allied ship would receive a priority message. They would pull back to safe distances and avoid interfering with human movements. Most importantly, they would prepare for rapid tactical changes that might seem impossible. Have you tested the system? Thexani asked. Multiple simulations. It works perfectly. The question is whether our allies will trust it when the time comes. Counselor Thexani's colors showed worry. Many species are still uncomfortable with the idea of human collective consciousness. Some fear that humans might become too powerful. Before Admiral Veltar could respond, alarms began sounding throughout the command center. Emergency lights flashed red. Communication officers rushed to their stations. Report. Admiral Veltar shouted. Massive Void Reaper fleet detected at the edge of the Crimson Nebula, called out Lieutenant Kaxora. Initial count shows over 200 vessels, including 5 motherships. The main display activated, showing a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy. Red dots marked enemy positions. There were more red dots than anyone had expected. They are heading directly for the core worlds, another officer reported. At current speed, they will reach New Earth in 14 hours. Texani's colors flashed. With alarm, How many ships do we have in that sector? 47 vessels from 8 different species. 12 of those are human ships. Admiral Veltar felt cold. 200 Void Reaper ships against 47 defenders. These were terrible odds, even with human ships in the mix. Send the emergency signal. All available fleets move to intercept immediately. Sir, even with reinforcements, we will be heavily outnumbered. I know, but we have to try. 10 hours later, the combined galactic fleet reached the Crimson Nebula. Captain Dongmin now commanded the human contingent from his flagship, the Taigok. Beside him, Captain Sora led a squadron of fast attack ships from her vessel, the Soul. Both had been promoted after the council tests. The Void Reaper fleet was even larger than initial reports suggested. The enemy motherships were enormous, each one the size of a small moon. They were surrounded by countless smaller vessels, all moving in perfect formation. All ships formed Defensive Line Alpha. Admiral Veltar commanded from his flagship. Human vessels, take position on the right flank. 8. The battle began badly. The Void Reapers had new weapons that cut through shields like they were made of paper. Their ships regenerated damage faster than before. Within the first hour, the galactic fleet lost 8 vessels. Captain Dongmin's voice came over the communications channel. Admiral, we need to change tactics. Standard formations are not working. Agreed. Captain, what do you suggest? Give us room to operate. When we go quiet, pull all allied ships back to minimum safe distance. Admiral Veltar understood. Immediately. All ships prepared to implement Protocol Omega-7 on my signal. The battle continued for another 30 minutes. The galactic fleet fought bravely, but they were losing ground. 3 more ships were destroyed. The Void Reaper motherships began charging their planet-killing weapons. Then Captain Sora's voice came over the radio. All human vessels, prepare for silence protocol. This is Captain Dongmin. Confirmed. See you on the other side. Every human voice stopped. Admiral Veltar immediately activated Protocol Omega-7 throughout the fleet. Alien crews received a special alert. All non-human ships began pulling back to predetermined positions. Some alien captains hesitated. They had never seen the human quiet mind in action before, but their orders were clear and they followed them. The change in the human ships was immediate and dramatic. The 12 vessels began moving like they were controlled by a single mind. They flowed through the battlefield with impossible coordination. The Void Reapers tried to target them, but the human ships seemed to know where every attack would come from. They moved through weapon fire like dancers, each ship anticipating the other's movements perfectly. Captain Dongmin's ship dove straight at the largest mothership. At the same time, Captain Sora's squadron attacked from 3 different angles. The other human vessels provided cover and distraction with surgical precision. The alien crews watched in amazement. The humans were not just fighting better, but they were fighting like a single organism with multiple bodies. Every movement was coordinated. Every attack was perfectly timed. One of the Void Reaper motherships exploded. Then another. The enemy fleet, which had seemed unstoppable moments before, began falling apart under the human assault. But the humans were not just destroying enemy ships. They were targeting specific systems with impossible accuracy. They hit communication, arrays, weapon control centers, and command bridges with surgical strikes. Within 20 minutes, the entire Void Reaper fleet was either destroyed or disabled. The enemy ships that survived were dead in space, their crews unconscious from some kind of neural disruption. Then the human voices returned. This is Captain Dongmin. Enemy fleet neutralized. Beginning search and rescue operations. Captain Sora here. All human vessels report minimal damage. Ready for next mission. Admiral Veltar stared at the battle display. 200 Void Reaper ships defeated by 12 human vessels. 0 Allied casualties. It should have been impossible. Captain Dongmin, how did you target their neural systems so precisely? When we share consciousness, Admiral, we can sense the weak points in enemy minds, as well as their ships. The Void Reapers rely on collective thinking too, but theirs is artificial. We disrupted their neural networks. Counselor Dexani appeared on the communication screen. Okay, Admiral, I want a full report on Protocol Omega-7's effectiveness. Protocol worked perfectly, Counselor. All Allied ships maintained safe distances and avoided interference. No friendly fire incidents, no tactical confusion, and the human performance. Admiral Velta looked at the destroyed enemy fleet. Beyond exceptional, Counselor. I believe we have witnessed the future of galactic defense. 3 days later, Protocol Omega-7 became standard procedure for all galactic military forces. Every ship captain received training on how to recognize and respond to human silence protocols. The protocol manual included a simple but important note. When human forces go silent during combat, maintain distance and prepare for tactical changes that may defy conventional understanding. Do not attempt to communicate or interfere. Trust in their abilities. Captain Dongman submitted his final battle report from his quarters aboard the Taigak. He wrote, "The galaxy contains many different forms of intelligence and consciousness. Some species excel at technology. Others have superior physical abilities. Humans learn to share our consciousness when survival demands it. Today proved that cooperation between species, each contributing their unique strengths, makes us all stronger." Admiral Veltar filed his own report, noting that Protocol Omega-7 was not just a military procedure. It was recognition that some mysteries were worth preserving rather than solving. The galaxy now had a way to work with human abilities instead of fearing them. As the fleet returned to their home ports, crews from dozens of different species carried a new understanding. They had witnessed something beyond normal military tactics. They had seen what humans could become when they stopped being individuals and became something greater. The Void Reapers were gone, but the galaxy had gained something more valuable than victory. They had learned that the most powerful weapons were not ships or energy beams, but the bonds between people willing to fight for each other. The human, quiet mind was no longer a mystery to be solved. It was a gift to be respected and protected.